I'm here with Brad Dixon
Correct.
from Aadyn Tech,
Correct.
and you are in the lighting business.
Correct.
You're going to tell me exactly what you do and how you started doing it, because you've been doing this for quite some time.
Right. Well, first off, we create LED lights that are equal to HMI lights. So, for example, we have an LED that's equal to about a 1.2K HMI. We have one that's equal to about 2.5K HMI.
Now, how do you, because LED, I mean, you see the technology, it's a number of small lights, but are you talking about making one source LEDs or just a panel that's large enough that it creates the same amount of light as something much larger?
Right. We use multiple LEDs, but we are in a form factor that's similar to an HMI.
Okay.
So basically, it's not the small LEDs. We have a little bit larger, but we have multiple versions of those in. And what we do, we actually converge the beam so it comes out as a single beam.
Okay, and it's focusable, it's...
No, it's actually more like an HMI par.
Okay.
What we do is we drop lenses in the same way you do with an HMI pars to get the different spread.
Okay, and so you've been doing this for, how long has LED been part of what you've been doing? It's a relatively new technology, so I can't imagine.
Okay, my background is I was a senior lighting director with the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, and I actually started the first all-LED newsroom. But Aadyn Tech's been around for a couple of years, and they have taken off. So broadcasters have jumped on board because we have an LED that's IP65. So what that means is, let it rain, let it snow, let it do whatever. They had them over in Sochi, and it was all fine.
That's probably the one thing that didn't go wrong over there.
Well, as I say, and that's the other thing too. It also runs on battery, and basically instant on. Don't have to worry about the getting up color temperature and like that, and dimmable and things like that. So now that's one end. The other end we get into is we get into the tungsten equivalent. So we replace a 6,000 watt space light with an LED unit.
So when did the transition, or were you always an LED company? When did the transition start?
Aadyn Tech was an LED company all the time, and it started about a couple of years ago. Basically, as I say, a number of people have been doing LEDs for a number of years. Yeah. We took the next step. We said, look we want to be bright. We want to get into the world that, broadcasters, cinematographers are used to with HMIs. The big issue where it's taken off greatly is the fact that a number of broadcasters have had issues with UV. Right, they've had on-air reporters burnt by UV, and they said, this cannot happen. We've got to do our due diligence. They started looking for LEDs, and they came to us. So we basically are producing LEDs that produce no UV. And also, films like Need for Speed said, we cannot run our cars. They didn't do green screen. They ran them full tilt. We cannot run those cars at that speed with an HMI. So they came to us. We provided the LEDs, and they ended up putting them on the car running at that speed.
Now, why can't they run them? I'm sure there's a great answer, but
First off, it starts bouncing around, and basically the treatment that they were going to get, right? Too aggressive for an HMI. And the other element too is that it also boils down to limited power. I mean, our 2.5 equivalent is about 4.7 amps. Our 1200 watt equivalent is 1.7 amps. It'll run on battery. So low power, no UV, lots of output, dimmable down to zero.
Right. These are in color, temperature. Can you dial that too?
We have daylight, we have tungsten, and we have variable color temperature.
Okay, now these are also geared more towards the professional. Do you have any plans, or do you currently have any lights that are, a lot of companies we've talked to here already are, pocket-sized lights, very much for the independent. Do you also offer that product?
Well, as a matter of fact, people loved our Hurricane so much. Our Hurricane light is IP65. They said, great. They had the same question. You have something smaller. Now we're coming out with a Hurricane Junior. It's equal to about a 200 watt pocket par. Okay. It'll run on AC, it'll run on DC, right? Small form factor. We've got on display too, and people are blown away with the output.
Yeah, I think what we need to do is we acknowledge the fact that we're live and wireless, and that's great. We need to go and start taping a couple segments so we can get into these places. It's tons of great stuff going on. I think Convergence in there, right? Yep. We talked to them, and we can only see so much. It's not like you're going to come out here carrying giant bags of lights and things like that. So anything that you've seen at the show that is of note, aside from your own products?
Yeah, well, I haven't had a chance to sort of run around. What I like personally is the fact, because let's say when I started with LEDs, I was creating my own LEDs. I like the fact that there is a wide range. And look, in the end, we're just another tool, right, that people want to try and use. I just love the fact that on the small form factor, for those people entering it, like, for example, your example here, you're using iPads, you're using whatever, the technology that basically says, hey, I want to get into that. You've got some students helping you out. The cost is not so high that they can't start getting into it. So we are recognizing that also, and we're saying, look, here's a small little light that is in the HMI range that basically the small DSLR user can now have an HMI, right? So that's what I sort of like. I like all the small form factor, and I like the fact that a student can come up and say, I want to get into it. It's not so cost prohibitive that I can start being creative.
Right. I was like getting nostalgic about my LOL kit when I was in school, and just how incredibly hot everything was, and you burn yourself. Yeah. The cables would start burning out of their, the shieldings, and just it was a mess.
Yes.
And you'd blow fuses all over, just so this is such a welcome thing for filmmakers on a budget. Yeah. There's also another product that I don't know if they've funded themselves yet or not, but I guess it's called the rag light. Yeah. And so it's strips of LEDs that are mounted on black fabric that can be hung anywhere in any shape. You can turn it around and turn it into a lantern. So people are coming up with all kinds of solutions right now. So
well, that's it, and it's also meeting the needs of the end user. As I say, for our end, we listen to our customers, right? For example, Stephen Poster had one of our Punch Pluses, we call it, which is equal to 2.5K HMI. He had on the set. One of his crew said, hey, it'd be nice to just have a little hand knob. We have the hand knob on all of our other fixtures. We don't on that one.
Okay.
So all of a sudden, Stephen came by, and this was like a couple of weeks ago. Stephen, how's this? And we gave him a little unit that had a little hand knob. So we listen to our customers, we react quickly to it.
So you have in-house manufacturing and engineering?
Correct, and all manufactured in the U.S.
That's terrific.
Right.
Yeah, so how do you keep them so cheap then?
Well, we have a good manufacturer.
I'm sorry, reasonably priced. I know that's
Actually, we're much less than an HMI would be, right? We have a very good manufacturer. We also work with Cree, who actually is an American company who does LEDs. Right. And we also have certification. So, for example, our lights are IP65 rated. We went out and had it certified. We are certified no UV issues. We have Intertech certification, right? So we've all gone that way. So, yeah, the bottom line is that yes, there's a lot of companies out there bringing foreign lights in, et cetera, but this technology is available and created, designed, and assembled in the USA. Yeah. The other benefit, too, is that with customers, for example, we have customers that they're in the LA area. They come by, use your lights, did this, they make a suggestion, we'll listen to it, and all of a sudden they get a phone call going, we've got it.
Right. Now, but you have the market that's need for speed level. So that's the highest end. And then how do you, is it easy to provide solutions for both the sort of high end, low end of the market?
Well, as I say, this is why, for example, when we're getting into our Hurricane Junior, we're getting into that lower end of the market. But the output level, for example, at 10 feet, we're talking 820 foot candles, right? And as I say, in a price range, it's getting close to what a, DSLR camera person who owns a DSLR start getting into, right? And again, power-wise, you talk about power-wise, about the hot cables and all that stuff. You can plug an inverter into your car lighter and be running some of the lights. So Jenny, it's not an issue. The other thing too is you go into someone's house, right? And normally with an HMI, you're going to be limited with the power, etc. You can start plugging into outlets. Heat is not an issue, right? And as your talent feels more comfortable, they start relaxing and start talking, right?
I remember there was a story I heard. I'll never forget. I don't know what it was. They used to shoot Happy Days on a soundstage with incredibly hot lights, and they always had ice cream at Arnold's, right?
Right.
And it was mashed potatoes,
right?
Because there's no way ice cream.
It wouldn't last.
It wouldn't last
on set.
So now you can have real ice cream in a scene that calls for real ice cream.
That's right.
But yeah, I remember snaking extension cords all over the house so that you wouldn't plug. You want to overload somebody, and you're in someone's home. That's a huge, huge problem.
It is, because the other thing too is that power is going to limit your creative possibilities for lighting, right? I'd love to have a 2.5K here, another 2.5K here, and I'd love to have a 1200 here, and you start adding that up, and you start saying, I'm going to have to tie right into your mains in here. Well, the homeowner's not going to love that. You sit back going, tell you what, I'll plug into your I need a 15 amp outlet, and I'll come up with a power bar, I'm set. Right? And again, you're now not limited creatively because you sit there saying, hey, I've got a 2.5, I can go through, double diffusion, I can do this, I can do all this sort of thing. So again, your possibilities expand.
Yeah, and I mean, the tying in, I mean, there was always that risk.
Yep.
It was just a time-consuming risk that's now kind of unnecessary on that level.
And another example, for example, with our space light, when you start going with the 6,000 watt tungsten space light, well, the silk skirt that you've got there, right? A bulb explodes, it burns the skirt. The heat basically burns the skirt over a season. With an LED, your diffusion, your silk comes off the same way as it went on. And now you can start hanging it over talent because you don't have to worry about a bulb exploding.
Right. No, it's really the way. I mean, you can tell everybody's got them.
Yeah.
And if making them behave more like lights that we're used to or enjoy using, it makes people feel even more flexibility. That's great.
And as I say, our end, we're into a whole different market. We're saying, look, everybody's doing LEDs, which is great, but everybody said, well, they're not really bright. They walk into our booth and they're blown away because now we're getting to the levels. Look, you want to do a shoot outside, and all of a sudden you need something that's equal to a 2.5. You got an LED. Right? Or, for example, you're doing a night scene. You want to light up an entire city, city street.
Right.
You've got the LEDs. So now, again, creatively, the small DSLR user says, I'd love to have that big look, but I haven't got the generator. I can't, and
get the budget.
And a lot of these companies are renting these lights too, right? So now you can rent the lights from them. You get that. Go out with your, get a 15 amp outlet and you're set. Right.
That's great. Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to come to your spot tomorrow so we can see them in person. We'll do part 2 of our interview. But in the meantime, let us know where we can find you for the non-Cine gear person. Where on the web can we find you?
Okay. www.adyntech, AADYNTECH.com. We're also on Twitter. We're also on Facebook.
Great.
Right? So you can find us there.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
It's a pleasure meeting you.
Josh.
Can't wait to see what you've got going on tomorrow. We are going to go back to, we're going to go to Michael, aren't we? They're pointing somewhere. That camera, that one there. I'm going to Michael. Am I going to hand him the microphone or am I just going to cut to him?